Hey everyone, Mario again, coming at you with another episode of Theater Experience, the video series where I talk about films that I see in the theaters. Mainly ones that I love, or ones that I've been meaning to watch, and since they were going to have a theatrical run, even if it's just brief and for one night, I decided to go and watch. This is, I think, the fourth or fifth one in this series, and it's a film that I've really enjoyed ever since I was a kid. I guess you could say it falls under the childhood favorites category, and when I do get around to re-reviewing it one of these days, it'll probably fall under that. It's a film that I heard was going to be re-released because it's the 35th anniversary, and I'm like, what the hell? I'll go and see it. It, of course, is Steven Spielberg's 1982 film, E.T. the Extra-Terrestrial. Now, I'm just going to say offhand, watching it again, it did bring me back to my childhood a little bit, just kind of how watching The Blob did. Now, they're two totally different alien films, so I got two totally different giddy vibes from watching them. I'll say definitely I think The Blob I enjoy a little bit more, but they're both, different animals, so it's kind of a little unfair to compare them both, but, you know, say they're both films that do hold up to me. Now, I'll say out of all the Spielberg films I've seen, this one's probably not my favorite anymore. It probably was as a kid, but I definitely say I like the Indiana Jones films more, at least the first three. Definitely like Jaws more. Hook I haven't watched in a while, but I definitely say I probably like that film more. That one probably will hold up a little bit more, at least as a story perspective, because maybe it's because I just recently read the novelization, so all the added benefits of that story are in my mind, but a couple moments here I'm like, okay, that could have been developed better, but then the other stuff that isn't developed more is like, less is more. Since they did have an introduction to the film done by the guy from Turner Classic Movies, I have to address this. He pulled kind of a fast one on us because he omitted information which didn't surprise me. If you know anything about the making of this film and the fact that it spawned from an abandoned sequel to Close Encounters of the Third Kind called Night Skies, you know the whole thing about Steven Spielberg and Rick Baker and the designs Baker was doing for Night Sky that Spielberg pilfered, and eventually one of them became the ET design. And then, of course, the abandoned Night Skies project eventually turned into two films, one being E.T., the other being Poltergeist, taking elements from Night Skies, took the family being terrorized in their house aspect and turned that into Poltergeist, and the child developing the friendship with the alien became E.T. Now, I will also say this stuff I'm not going to hold against the film because I think it's unfair to hate a film just because its director was kind of a dick. And as I said, I'm not surprised they admitted that because it does paint Spielberg in a negative light, even though for that he does deserve to be criticized for. And because of that, we're never going to get a proper special edition on Poltergeist. E.T. they'll do because they'll just admit the story like they did with this thing. And even if some of the other stuff, like Spielberg always having an idea about an alien having a friendship with a boy, is true before they did the Night Skies thing, it is an omission that kind of hurts credibility just a tad, but the rest of the stuff you mentioned was interesting. Like, the film was very personal because of Spielberg channeling some of his emotions and feelings from when he was a teenager and his parents divorced, which does come through strongly in the film with the child characters, which is where part of the heart of the film comes from. And watching it again, I will say this is probably going to be one of my only little critique things I'm really going to mention in this video. The film seems to be about growing up because by the end of the movie, Elliot is a lot more mature than when he was at the beginning. It's a weird little thing about it, considering that it's about aliens, but that's the only thing I could think of off the top of my head that the film could be about. Or it could be about moving on and accepting that things change, so a little bit of growing up there. Now, having said that, watching the film on the big screen, which by the way it was a theatrical cut, so it shows that even with all that, at least Spielberg will at least release the original theatrical cut of his film, unlike his friend Georgie. But, no, different day to yell at that donkey. The special effects, for the most part, held up watching it. The model work for the spaceship, the flying scenes, the model work. Well, there's a couple exceptions. The flying scenes, at least the ones done during the day, There was a couple shots where the green screen had aged a tad, but it still had some of that 80s charm to it, so I forgive it. But the night ones, watching it, it's like, wow, they really did hide the fact that some of this was green screen well. But it being night and being able to use shadows and lighting creatively, you can do that. And the puppets used for ET, there was like a couple shots where I'm like, okay, they could have gotten a little more life out of that. Okay, he's moving a little awkward there, but you can say he has a little charm to him, especially when he's drunk. Which, by the way, that scene did get a lot of laughter in the theater. And I did not hear anybody heckling. If anyone was doing any heckling, it was silent, and I did not hear it in the front where I was. I heard laughing at the scenes where they're supposed to be laughing. I heard a little bit of awing, and there was a little bit of clapping after the film ended, but not like, like not everyone going like that, because unless it's like a film that's being shown before an audience that's made of diehard fans, like when Tamaku shows their classic horror films, or when I went and saw The Blob at the New Beverly Cinema, no one's going to be going like that nowadays. Well, for the most part, there's going to be some exceptions to that. Now, as I was saying, a couple of shots of the puppet in the face didn't look right, but there's only few and far between. Most of the time, he looked good in the face. The acting from the kids, it was not going to be winning any awards, but I forgive it a tad because it came off as genuine. Not very deep, but genuine. And that balances out. If it was all wooden or unemotional to where it's like, I don't believe it, then it would have lost more points with me. But since it comes off as genuine, if a bit awkward, I forgive it. Especially since it does kind of add to the undercurrent story involving their family unit, with the father, no longer there, him and the mother separated and possibly going through a divorce. And it adds to that. And of course, the acting by the mother. She's probably the strongest actor in the family unit because she's obviously the most experienced one there, but it's just heartbreaking in the scene when, Mexico with Sally, that whole thing. And I noticed a couple things with the audio, like I never noticed that a certain song was played during the opening scene. People who died that I've used in a tribute video before. And noticed a couple little scenes seem to drag on a little longer than I remember. The only little bit of audio that was different from the VHS that I used to spam watch as a kid was when the guy comes in the third act to tell them that the test results on E.T. came back and he has DNA. And this one he's like, he has DNA. What? Yeah, but he doesn't have something alleles like we do. He has blah, blah, blah. I don't remember the exact dialogue. Whereas in the VHS copy I have, he comes in, he's all excited. He's like, he has DNA. What? We're positive he has DNA. I don't know if they changed that for the VHS or whatnot, but it's one thing I noticed, because I always remembered that. He has DNA. And of course, Peter Coyote is Keys. I will note that there's a couple of shots involving his character that are like, okay, it lingers a little bit too long there. If you've seen the movie, you know what I mean, but considering that they don't want to show his face until the end, I can see why Spielberg was creative with his camera shots here. Adds a little mystique to the character, though I don't know if it was the editor on a couple of them. I wouldn't have gone with those ones. And I do like that the first, I didn't count it, like 5 minutes of the film, it's just the music. Which, by the way, I haven't talked about John Williams' score. Excellent score. This, along with Star Wars, Jaws, Indiana Jones, shows why John Williams is a master when it comes to the craft of scoring film. And this is definitely one of my favorite scores he's done, because it's a perfect example of the music telling the story, especially in the scenes where there's no dialogue, which the main one that comes to mind is the opening. No dialogue, yet the music underscores the film, mixes with the images, and it tells the story. You're like, these aliens here, they're doing their job here. And of course, it heightens your emotions. You're playing with my emotions. And of course, since this is a theatrical cut, as a side note, we actually see the guns, in case anyone was wondering. Yeah, we all know Spielberg censored that on the special edition, which is probably my major complaint about that one, along with the early 2000s CGI he added in, but that's another hill to go on to yell at a different donkey. That's about it to say on the film without turning this theater experience video into a review, which I don't want to do. Just in conclusion, if you do have a chance to ever see this film on the big screen, I'd say take it. If it's the theatrical cut. If it's the special edition cut, at your own peril, I would say. Because watching this film on the big screen, if you love the film, you'll definitely enjoy the film even more if you haven't seen it. If you met on the film, you'll probably appreciate the special effects and the score more, because seeing them on the big screen and hearing that score through theater speakers when I'm just used to seeing it at home, it was an experience. If you hate the film, it might not change your view on it, but you might at least appreciate those two things, just seeing them in the way that they were originally shot for. But other than that, if you hate the film, no other reason to see it. And stay tuned one day down the line for me to actually do a proper review of this film when it's all fresh in my mind. I might do it as a Mar Talks. Might be an interesting companion piece to my Poltergeist review. Of course, if I do it, I probably won't cover Night Sky again, because in my Poltergeist review I already covered that one in depth. So I might just do a whole cheat thing where I say see Poltergeist review for details or whatnot. Now, stay tuned for the next videos.